It's going to be interesting to see what life in here brings. I mean, right now, the Grand Hall, my jaw still drops when I walk in there. But you know, the one thing that's really interesting is you go through here, there are all these kind of hidden spaces and, you know, kind of some quirky spaces like stairways to nowhere. And, you know, and it's been fun over the years exploring some of those. The first time we took a tour when I considered buying it, you know, obviously it was, you know, in horrible shape. I mean, it was a wreck. And, you know, in many ways it was in worse shape than we even thought perhaps it would be. You know, the graffiti and the water damage. And in some rooms, you might just have a corner of a piece of molding that was left. And from that, you had to try and figure out what the rest of the room could look like. Some rooms we had drawings. Some rooms we just had old photos. Some we had none of the above. It really was a very interesting restoration. But the one thing that was, to me, the coolest part about the restoration was coming down here and talking to the men and women that were actually doing the work. Because for them, it was a labor of love. They just loved working on this building. And they feel, you know, as I do in many ways, it was a legacy project. My hope is this is the kind of place where everyone will want to come and bring their family and friends and listen to music, see art, have something to eat, hang out. For Ford, I hope this becomes a real talent magnet. Until very recently, the reputation of the city of Detroit was working against us. I hated our national reputation, and I hated the fact that this was a poster child for the decay of Detroit when they would show a visual. You know, I said to myself for some years, prior to actually pulling the trigger here, if I could ever think of a real business reason to do it, I would like to change the narrative for not only this station, but for Detroit. But it took a while for the right business conditions to come together. But to attract the best talent, you have to do two things. One is you have to give them really interesting problems to solve, and two, you have to give them a great workspace. And this place will check both those boxes. This will become, you know, the locus of a lot of forward-leaning activity. We now have three things going for us when we want to attract the best and the brightest. We have really interesting things for them to work on. We will have a beautiful place for them to work. And we also have a city of Detroit which is affordable and has a really interesting quality of life now with all 4 sports teams downtown, with lots of new restaurants and bars opening up seemingly every week. And I think people will find coming to this area now a much more interesting proposition than they would have 5 years ago. You know, one of the reasons I don't want this to be my swan song is I'm so energized by not only what's going on in our company, but what's going on in our community. I feel like this is really the beginning of something wonderful for us as a community.